Welcome to a new podcast that we're going to be doing over The Gunslinger, the first book in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. And we're going to be reviewing, recapping, reacting, all those rewords, whatever y'all want to call it. So we're going to be doing. And introduce myself first. I go by Larmer. I am a big King fan. I've read The Dark Tower one time through all the way, and then multiple attempts at a reread where I'd stop and change books. My co-host here is Jake.
I'm Jake. I am a mild King fan. I've read maybe like 4 or 5 of his other books. I started this in high school, and then goofy high school Jake was like, whatever, and didn't even get past the first chapter. But I've recently started getting super into books again, and I'm a huge sci-fi fantasy guy, and I've heard nothing but good things about this.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I kind of want to start there just to get your your thoughts on a book like this. That's obviously pretty old. I believe the first was 78 for The Gunslinger was the first edition, but before that it had been in a magazine. King released it by chapters, so
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's why it reads like that. Also, King does weird stylistic things with his chapters and like little books in there, so you're gonna get used to that. But you had heard at least something about this. I know we had discussed. I want to start here because I fucking hate it. What about the movie? I fucking despise the movie.
So I went into the movie knowing nothing about the books other than I remembered reading it in high school and being like, well, it started out in a desert, and there's a small desert town, and I was like, that's not happening at all here. So they're obviously going in a wildly different direction.
They tried to put 7 books in one 90-minute movie,
and I was like, this is. As a person who hasn't read the books, this is fine. It's not good. It's a fine action movie. I think McConaughey did a fantastic job of being really creepy.
Yes.
He was my favorite part of the movie by far.
I could see that. I enjoyed McConaughey. I don't think that it was well written for him, but I think it was well acted. I think he did a good job in the role that was provided.
Absolutely.
I definitely. Okay, we'll get to that later. But I liked Idris Elba as a gunslinger too.
Oh yeah,
I thought he did. He was fun. He's just great in everything. Though.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever disliked him in a role.
Yeah, that's for sure. So that book actually came out about like a year after I read the series for the first time. So I was so hyped. Again, this is actually this is how I got back into quote unquote reading. I was listening to audiobooks while at work, and I flew through this in maybe 3 weeks. It was every minute at work I was listening to this audiobook for the whole series. Oh man, that movie broke my heart.
Yeah, I can see that. Especially, I've read some of the changes that they made. I didn't want to go too deep into it because I didn't want to spoil anything for myself. But wow, it is.
It's the whole thing. I mean, we haven't got there in our review, but his whole thing is that he wants to get to the Dark Tower, and in the movie they're like, "Oh, Jake is like, hey, I need you to take me to the Dark Tower because I want to get there," and it changes the whole quest. It drives me nuts. We'll probably get there when we get closer in the book.
We'll have to do a special episode about the movie when we get finished.
I haven't rewatched it yet because it could be that upsetting of content for me. I might be that mad.
That's understandable.
I
haven't seen it since I watched it in the theater either, so I get it.
Yeah, I walked out I took my dad and my stepmom to it. I was like, oh yeah, the series is really cool. Interesting as hell. There's a whole bunch of different connective things, and then it just shit the bed the whole way.
Guys, I'm sorry.
I told them that when I went out I was like, I'm sorry I wasted your time with this. I felt bad. And, yeah. So, we'll get into the book. We read the first chapter, maybe? First entry, first book, whatever you want to call it, this book. If y'all are following along, I have the new release that mentions now a major motion picture starring Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. But they wish they wouldn't have put that on there.
Oh man, I just read the ebook, so okay. I didn't get that.
If you get a chance, start it. If we keep on doing this through book 2, I will lend you my Audible account. Listen to chapters. So the voice actor or the narrator, what do you call it?
Narrator.
He's kind of a narrator. He's the one that reads it for us, right? He's amazing. George Gordell or something like that. I don't know. He is so good, and the voices of his characters are in my head as I read.
Oh hell yeah!
So he's amazing. he made that whole experience just great.
Nice.
We did start from, I don't know, page 1 to 77, I believe.
Yeah, it's technically one chapter.
9.
That's what he calls it, but it is about 70 pages.
Yeah, not bad. And I thought that this could be kind of something that we could spend a little bit of time just going through your first initial reactions, maybe some of what I enjoy in it, because I obviously have read it before, and just go in there through what'd you think about the book. So I'm going to start off with what I think is one of the best opening lines in a novel.
Oh, absolutely.
The man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. Like right there, oh, I'm fucking in. This is awesome.
That definitely hooked me, and I was just like, oh, okay. All right, King.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just something that the unnamed protagonist and antagonist in it, I love that we last so long before getting the gunslinger's name, and we still don't know if the man in black has a name.
Right, like I think that we get the gunslinger's name at the very end of the second to last section in the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just get an alias for the man in black. We don't actually get his name.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it is, but it seems like it's not.
Yeah, you can kind of take that with a grain of salt, I'd say, with a character like him.
That's as soon as he showed that was his name, I was like, that's not his name.
Yeah, I think they called him, I believe they call him Walter O'Dim in the beginning of this book, which is a fucking amazing name. But yeah, I don't know if you can really take that as reliable narration with the people in the town of Tull that he went to. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, though. I wanted to start with, after the opening line, like some of the word choice that King makes me think of him being a college kid. That he is like trying to make this really good writing. And I've heard this in some other podcasts that like even the second line, the desert was the apotheosis of all deserts. Like that's the word choice we're using already. That doesn't.
It's like okay, but
I know
what the hell does that mean?
Yeah. Like I know what apotheosis means, but like there is some word choice in here that makes me see that doesn't necessarily fit King's writing later on in life or later on in this series.
Well, didn't he start writing this when he was like 19?
That's what they say. Like something super early that he went back and forth, and a lot of in this book is it talks about different things about the past of the book. So we'll get along there, I think, as we go along in our breakdown, review, whatever you want to call it. And it's just the writing style I thought was interesting. That brought me. I just read. Oh man, what did I just read? I read The Institute and later to King's recent releases, and you could tell that he's not as pretentious in his writing. Later on in life, he's like 70 now, so
yeah.
I
love doing that with authors, where like you read one of their early works and then one of their newer ones and kind of see how they've grown and developed.
Oh, I've read one of my old papers. like freshman year at college. I'm like, oh my God, I was, what?
Oh, delete. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's not good. I have even like some short fiction that I have stored in my computer that I'm like, it's just there to make me cringe. Like just to look back how bad. And like, I never thought that like, I'd be like, I don't even think I'm good at writing papers. I just get good grades on writing papers. But yeah, it's him advancing as a writer is interesting to see in here because not much. You said some had been changed. I guess we can start there too. I don't know. We're started like 3 times, but this book has been altered. This is not the original text, and I think it was just because of that. Because this book was written so far behind the other ones, or I believe the third one was written in '91. One before that was in the late '80s. So,
yeah.
So I mean, 20 years, or I guess 15 years or so, compared to releasing them within about a 5-year period. I think he did want to make some things more cohesive. So.
And from what I hear, he changed a few story elements around, but most of what he did was like add in a few lines here and there that like kind of set up foreshadowing a little bit, or just kind of throw in some bonus things that like if you know later in the series, you're like, oh, okay, that makes more sense now.
Definitely, there's mention of a tahine in the first couple of pages, and no, it doesn't have any example of what a tahine is, but I know because I've read the series. It's basically a person with a bird head. They're monsters.
Oh, they do talk about the bird head guy at one point, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of like mention it in there. That is one of the changes 'cause that wasn't in the original. I believe I've heard the original one time, and I used to use a app that had free audiobooks when I was going through this first time. So it might have been a different recording, but yeah, I don't know how much is. I'd have to go through, like line by line. It's not really that interesting to me. It's like whatever, you get what you get.
Right. Like the two big things that I know of are a change to Allie and a change to Sylvia.
What happened with Sylvia?
So in the original, they say that it's actually the Man in Black's baby. In this, they say it's the son of the Crimson King.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then for Allie, in this one, after she says 19 and gets like the secret message from the dead guy.
Yeah, more. Yeah.
Yeah. In this one, she like is like, please kill me.
Yeah.
In the original, she was like begging him not to.
Oh wow. Okay. I want to talk about Toll, but do you have anything before that? Because there's a lot before that. Because I do too. So.
Toll is definitely the kind of the meat of the story here in the first chapter. But before that, we do we hear a lot about the desert and his chase of the Man in Black, and I don't know if it's necessarily like anything major or not, but I do like that he always uses the same, like he'll find the Man in Black's like rest points, like where he sets up a fire, and then like that's where he'll set up his fire and everything.
Yeah, that's
I don't know if that's says anything about their characters really yet, since I don't know them too much, but I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I could see that as, they're doing so much similar, and that he chooses to even use the same ashes, I believe.
Yep.
That he builds his fire on the same spot. So there's so much that is vague in this story that I'd love to be like, I get what King was doing here, but I'm not going to, just in case a listener or you hasn't seen the page after next, So, yeah. I love the way that King writes him as like this, it's like just functioning machine. Like they said that like the thirst pleased him. In the first couple of pages, like, and this too pleased him. So it's just like he just took account of things, tallies, and then went about his duty,
Yeah, and I figured that might have had something to do with his gunslinger training or whatever made him a capital G gunslinger. Cause
proper noun.
Yeah, he like was able to be aware of, but kind of shut off his need for water.
Yeah.
And he was very aware of how much he needed versus how much he just wanted it.
Yeah.
Which was just a really cool touch. I have in my notes that like the world building, especially in the first couple of sections, is very dense but not overwhelming. Like he throws a lot at you all at once.
You could definitely tell it's a fantasy.
Yeah.
That element right there of like you said with the world building. Sorry. That he is. Okay, let's just start there. Like this place that we're at, is it our world?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So when he's talking to Brown, the man that he meets in the desert, where he comes across his house, he's talking to him, and Brown asks if he comes from Inworld.
Yeah.
And he says yeah, and then they kind of talk about like, is there a midworld? I've heard of a midworld, but is there a place?
Yeah.
Which, as a reader, is like, yep, obviously they're going to go to midworld at some point.
Yeah, that's okay. It's like what's the showing a gun in the first act, has scarf in the third. Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, so are they in Outworld now, or what would it be called? They don't ever actually say.
Yeah, I don't think they've really defined much. Like where that's not like we're given a map or anything.
Yeah.
So he's in a desert and he met a hut. They said that him and Brown start talking, right? And then we obviously go into a flashback when he's talking about Toll, because he's been there. He's like, I killed Toll. So that's in his past. And in that little section, he says that it had rained twice while he was in Toll. But Brown says that it rained once a year ago.
Huh.
What kind of time are we looking at? Or what kind of distance? Like, all that confuses the absolute shit out of me in this series.
Yeah, I didn't catch the line about the rain twice. That is really interesting. Brown does talk about how time is really weird in the desert. Allie, when he's in Toll, also talks about how time is super weird and hard to tell.
Yeah.
She's like for example, when she's talking about Sylvia, she's like, she could have come here 2 years ago or 12 years ago. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's they keep on repeating this phrase, especially early in this book, that the world has moved on.
Yeah, the world has moved on. It kind of feels like this area of the world, at least, like was undergone some sort of plague. Like that's kind of the vibe I get.
That's what I definitely my first time through. I was like, okay, is this just post-apocalyptic Earth? Like my Fallout video game brain came through. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. It's post-apocalyptic. We're gonna revert to cowboys. It always happens.
Yeah, they're playing Hey Jude, and everything's
that
cowboys.
too. There's a connection directly to something that
And the Man in Black does say something about a neighboring world.
He does say something.
I can't remember the exact.
The world next door to ours.
The world
I think
next.
is how he says it. Yeah. And that's what the fuck is going on,
right? And then one thing I really liked is I really like Brown as a character. I know we'll probably not ever get him again. He's just kind of there to move the story along.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked how he knew that whatever baggage that the gunslinger brought to him, like he knew, he's like, talk about it, bud. Let's just talk about it. You're gonna feel better. Let's just talk about it.
just like gave him a therapy session. Every sense of it. Like he seemed everything the gunslinger expected from him. He didn't like give him. He wasn't going to question him and probe at him, and he was definitely an interesting character that was really just a plot device. Honestly, to get the exposition out of us.
Yeah.
Or to us, and he was fun. I've never really thought about him like that. It's more the crow, the more you eat, the more you chew guy.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we putting this in here for?
Zoltan.
That was his name, Zoltan. Yeah. And yeah, but Brown's little shack, it's just crazy.
And they talk a lot about Brown and the gunslinger. They kind of talk a lot about Brown mentions to him at one point, like, oh, I think this is death. I think that this is the afterlife.
I did write down that line because that is so interesting to me. Like, if this was a purgatory, the afterlife, hell, whatever you may say, like, a lot of these things would make sense.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, they have leak over from our world or life, with like Hey Jude, but there's people there, they don't really know how to tell time, when they got there, how they got there. Even the novel started in the middle of a chase. There's nothing told beforehand or why is the gunslinger following the Man in Black.
And everybody talks about the desert as if it's just this endless, there's nothing at the end of it. It's just desert. There's just desert out there.
Yeah.
So that also kind of feeds into the purgatory-ish.
For sure. They do use a way of measurement that I'm not familiar with, a wheel.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was supposed to be. Like, that's one thing I kind of wanted to look up. Like, oh, how long is a wheel supposed to be?
Yeah, that gets used forever, all over the series. So if you wanted to, that would help you with like that kind of spatial thinking about a story. I think it is only like this. These people use unit of measurement. I don't think it's like something that's actually used,
Yeah.
or in olden times or anything like that. But so like the desert went on for wheels and wheels. Kind of connecting to your purgatory set. Like, how do you feel about the religion aspect in this? At Toll, it hit you straight in the face with it.
Oh yeah, I was like, religion's going to be a huge theme throughout the series. I can already tell just from this, or at least in this first book, probably the whole series.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that King has done in some of his other books that I've read. Like, there's been a huge presence of religion, and so I'm like, this is the kind of thing that he is interested in. Parts of the story that he likes to tell.
I can think of, I've probably read like close to 30 King novels, and there's been one good religious character. Oh wait, two. I'm gonna say two. And yeah, so anytime religion is brought up, like, it's usually the wild out there Christians that do kind of like Sylvia Patterson was in this, and the fact that religion carries over too was interesting to me. They call they refer to Jesus as the man Jesus, capitalize both the M and the J. And it's like, that's nothing from our world. That's nothing I've ever heard before. So like the man Jesus, like,
Yeah.
what has been translated for these characters? Like, how do they have like a full on Christianity there, or is it just passed on and down? Sylvia says that she's gone through 3 of the good books in the past year.
Yeah, the past year, and before she came to town, she had gone through, like, she had worn out dozens of copies of it.
Yeah, and it's like, they even mentioned like paper is sacred in this place, so it's like, what is the fuck is she reading?
Right.
Stuff like that interests me. Like, okay, are you actually the same religion that we are familiar with in our world?
Yeah, definitely like a version of it at least.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I read somewhere that King himself doesn't really consider himself very religious.
I don't want to speak like for the man's religious beliefs,
But it's always interesting to see how authors use religion in their writing, whether or not they are or not.
I tell you, the first time I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I had no idea it was about religion.
Oh yeah, no, that's just a fun fantasy book. Like,
I was also like 9.
right?
But
Yeah.
I look back on it now, I'm like, oh my god, this is so heavy-handed.
Yeah, and I remember I was listening to this podcast, Legendarium. They were talking about, they did like a series on the Narnia books.
Mm-hmm.
Lewis hated when people called them allegorical. He was like, my books aren't. Yes, they are. What are you talking about? How did you do that on accident?
A perfect male figure that sacrifices himself for
Right.
the good of everyone. Like, what? Okay.
Like, he hated the concept of allegory, and that was hilarious to me.
That's amazing. That you can't see past your own nose. You know, it's like, oh my god, yeah, it is. I do like that the Man in Black is not feared automatically by the people in Toll.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks he's a priest, and he comes in and talks to Allie, much like the Gunslinger does. And they use different methods of payment. I found that interesting, too.
Yeah, the Gunslinger pays with gold coins, and the Man in Black pays with silver coins.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, like Olympic medals where silver would be less. But I believe, doesn't Allie still say, like, I don't have change for this? And he's like,
He's
I
like,
wasn't
that's fine.
expecting any
Yeah.
or whatever, yeah. They, definitely, they're walking, he's following him, so they're going to walk the same path. But even the way that they act seems similar. I don't know. It's interesting to see the connections between these two characters that are, in our knowledge, have not met yet. They're just, one is being pursued, one is fleeing,
And you raise a good point, or an interesting point about the Man in Black not being feared. Because when the Gunslinger comes to town, he is feared. Like,
instantly.
Nobody likes him.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk to him. They're all distrusting of him.
Even the guy that he puts his mule to, is like turning him away at first. And that's business. Like,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? And he obviously pays really well because he has access to unknown shit.
And then like the kids that are playing, like they don't want to talk to him, and then whenever one of them is like, oh yeah, you can go over there to eat, the other kids like are kind of beat up on him, like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's I wonder if they were that receptive to the Man in Black, like not receptive, but that style of reception for him too, or if he actually persuaded that whole town that anybody else coming in is bad. We'll get into like the interloper section later, but yeah, his welcome in Toll was strange. Do we have anything more to talk about Brown before we kind of, or at least before that?
About Brown specifically, I don't think so.
Okay.
Other than his diet is completely corn and beans.
Your teeth have to be falling out, right?
Right.
Like you have just no access to anything.
And your gut health cannot be very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to talk about the Tahi because I found that interesting. The time is funny out here. Does that mean the desert or I don't know. I don't know if that, like the first time I read that, I thought it might just be because they were in the middle of a barren wasteland. Like,
right.
Yeah, I could get time not as in like the hours, but in days. Whenever the same day is just repeated for 365 times in a row. Like, oh well, what does a day mean anymore?
Right.
But
it's I at first when Brown said it, I thought that it was just because he's alone in the desert with nobody except for his pet raven.
Yeah.
and the Bean Man every once in a while.
The Bean Man.
And so I was like, this guy is in solitary confinement. He just doesn't. But then Allie says it as well.
Yeah, and she's obviously at a very social job. She gets to talk to a lot of people.
And so I was like, there's got to be something going on.
So the Brown does mention that he gets that's where the Bean Man comes from, is Toll, right?
I'm not sure if the Bean Man comes from Toll or not.
Okay. I thought that because also, King is really bad with directions in this book, and when you get to the second one, you're going to notice he's okay. Well, whatever. I believe are they heading southwest or southeast? Because it always messes with
They're
me.
heading southeast through the desert.
Southeast. Okay. I'd love to say, because you try to draw a map on this, because they've done that for. I mean, hell, Game of Thrones had made a whole intro out of it.
Yeah.
But I think if you try to do it for this, it's like a warped map that makes no sense. And me reading now, I like to think he's leaning into that, of the world falling apart, of things not making sense anymore. That time, direction, space doesn't translate like it would for us. So we could not draw it on a two-dimensional map. So I lean into that with his mistakes, but I think it's just mistakes too.
Yeah, that just made me think of that's the anime series JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Okay.
There's so many weird inconsistencies that fans will try to come up with a logical reason for, and the actual reason for is just Araki forgot.
Yeah,
he just forgot.
Yeah,
he'll write something and then 50 chapters later, it could have come up again, or he'll write something completely contradictory to it. He just forgot.
Yeah, which these are being written by not perfect people.
Yeah,
but yeah. I don't want to give King too much rope with this, but it's maybe there's a shred of doubt because the world is falling apart. Not literally, but that things don't make sense. That he might be. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll never get there. Crossover when we get there. So Gunslinger now flashes back to go to Toll. Walks in. He's not really welcomed very well. And what about the threaded stock? I found that very interesting when they brought that up for the first time.
Yeah, so the threaded stock is basically saying the animals are not warped or mutated, or they're not, they'll say oh yeah, that they're all surprised that his mule doesn't have 3 eyes and 6 legs. And when she tells him that the meat that she has at the restaurant is threaded stock, he's like, yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, sure. That's what you say.
And that launched me into me thinking oh, this nuclear fallout. They have been mutated somehow. And I didn't know if you got the same impression, or if that was like I said, just my history of loving a video game about that shit. So
no, I did. Then also that kind of played into that. My thought about was there some sort of plague? And I was like, maybe it has diseased and messed with these animals so bad. But yeah, I was thinking definitely something about apocalyptic, or something has wiped out a lot of life and mutated what's left.
That's where I really found it interesting. The first time going through this, I thought of same world in the future, but then it was okay. The Man in Black mentions the world next to ours with a phrase that was really, I don't remember what it was, but something that you would think of in just a social phrase. I don't know what you call it, but something from our world, right? And he says the world next door, and I'm wondering how similar these worlds were. We have seen some similarities. The man has guns. That's at least something that we know about ours, but something has happened to the world that has ruined. I don't know how built up this world was at one time, or if it's always been. We don't have any example of technology yet either. Yeah. So not like we see cars or anything electronic. I believe everything's by candlelight in the bar.
And yeah, though Sylvia does mention at one point the something about machines marked by Lamarck or Lamarck.
Yeah, he does say something about that, doesn't he?
Sylvia says that during her when she's preaching, and it's kind of just treated as a throwaway line. The gunslinger kind of is huh, what's that mean? And then they move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, there's some sort of machines. I don't know what level they are,
Yeah.
technology wise, but there's some sort of machines out there.
Thinking like Wild Wild West with Will Smith, maybe.
Yeah, there we go.
That'd be awesome. Okay, so we get into the bar. I know that comes later, actually. When does they're at Mort's wake, right? There he walks in.
The when the gunslinger walks in.
Yeah.
No. So he walks in. They're playing Hey Jude. Everybody's just kind of hanging out, having a good time. He sits at the bar, orders his food and drink, and then Nort walks in.
Oh yeah.
And he can like instantly smell the devil grass on him, and he could tell immediately like, oh, this man's dead.
Yeah, and what a weird thing, like devil grass. That
right.
Like my God, he's chewing it. I think was one of his first thoughts. Like
he's not even smoking it anymore.
Yeah.
He's just eating it.
Yeah, and they said like it had like moss on his teeth or mossy teeth, whatever it may be. It made me completely grossed out.
Oh yeah, like they describe his teeth as just green.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that, like, this is the first example of like King talking about his struggles with addiction in a book, but it might be the ground floor of it, because there's a couple of stories that if you think about it, he had a cocaine and alcohol addiction problem, especially during like the 80s, like The Shining and shit really discusses it. But it's interesting to see he has a lot of characters that have addiction or addictive personality types or struggles with some kind of narcotic. And I don't know, it's just interesting to me that he wrote this like in college and he already had a character that was struggling that far. Makes me think, like, did he already know that he had some struggles and was trying to like work through that? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A little tangent,
Yeah.
but I was listening to an interview with King on like I think it was called like the Author Stories podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about his addiction and his struggles with it, and he's like, that Cujo book's really nice. I don't know who wrote it, but but I read it recently, and it's
that the wildest story, and not the story itself, but the story that King tells about writing that he woke up
he doesn't remember
on
any
Monday
of it.
with a trash can full of bloody napkins because his nose was bleeding from how much coke he fucking did, and he wrote Cujo. Like, wow, that's not his wildest book by any means. It's a pretty crazy story, but to not remember writing a whole novel.
Yeah, he said that now he just doesn't remember anything about it.
That's
so
crazy.
he read it and he was like he was reading someone else's work. Nothing about it seemed familiar to him.
It reads like a King novel.
Yeah,
I mean it has a lot of things that were similar to me whenever I read it, but that's so wild that he's crazy dude, man.
Yeah.
We ever get the chance, I want you to read the Tommyknockers. I haven't read it yet, but the reviews on it are the absolute worst, and it's like 1,400 pages of nonsense.
Oh, right on. Okay, that sounds
People
right
say
on my
like,
alley.
it makes no sense that it's not good. But of course, on the back of it, it's going to say New York Times #1 bestseller because
of
the
course.
man on front. So with Mort, that's whenever we go straight back. That's a flashback within a flashback, right?
Yeah. So the gunslinger, is talking to Allie, and he asks about the Man in Black, and she's like, "Well, I'll tell you, but I have a need I need fulfilled first." And they become very good friends.
Wild that I don't know. The way he handled that did not feel it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like good writing to me.
Yeah, it felt like a 19-year-old kid was like, "Yeah, it's so cool."
Yeah, that's how she wants it. She wants it, so that's what he has to pay.
Though one part of that scene that was good writing was like after she said that, the gunslinger just kind of stares at her for a little bit, and she kind of like breaks down. She's like, "You don't have to." Okay,
Yeah.
like she's like kind of defeated by it, and like because she's got this. They mentioned like this scar across her face that she tries to hide, and it was kind of sad.
Yeah, she is a not fun, but like an interesting character with a tragic history and future.
Yeah.
Nothing good ever happens. What's her name again? I'm blanking.
Allie.
Allie. There it is, right? And I think that kind of shows some of the strength in King's writing, that he can have a character like that is just given to us in a short amount of time that we can already feel a little bit bad for and have some kind of connection to in this story that is absolutely batshit crazy thus far.
Yeah.
We don't know what is going on, but it's told a lot of we're kind of removed from being the story being told in the Gunslinger's point of view now to Allie's. So she is the main character there for, I don't know, 5-10 pages.
Yeah, we get inceptioned into a third flashback.
Yeah. And so the scene it's so good. Whenever the man in black comes in the bar, and just I gotta find it to at least find some examples. I'm gonna have post-its next time. Here and here. So, and
while you're looking that up, this is where they're like doing his wake, and they've got like his bot. Is it Nort or Mort? Because I think we've both been saying different ones.
I've said Mort, but I think Nort sounded better whenever you said it. So, let me look it up. We'll be there right there. I can edit it out. Nort.
Okay.
Nort.
I was like, wait a second. They're both real names.
Yep.
And
is Nort a real name?
Well, because he shortens it from Norton.
Ah.
And then I was like, Morton is also a real name.
Yeah.
So I was like, shoot, which one is it?
Yeah. So with Nort, they also said that, I want to talk about this, that the high speech.
Yeah, the high speech of Gilead.
Whatever that means.
Right. I was like, okay, so this is probably something from InWorld.
Yeah.
Like from wherever the Gunslinger's from.
That this feels like a nation that is, or at least like a capital city maybe.
Yeah.
That they have their own language, not their own, but like a language that is also spoken there. That Nort was familiar. I believe he does the salute too, which I've always found interesting as shit. Find that too. He talked to you funny. Yep. I was spending tickets on pleasure. I don't think he does this salute just yet, but it happens later on in the series, where it says he puts his closed fist to his forehead, and I have been trying for years, like, what? This maybe that looks the best. The way you did it first looks the best. I like
they
this
all
reference.
They all feel a little silly though.
Yeah, like that. It was like they like stretch out a leg and then do this, right? And I'm like, what does that? What?
Why wasn't that in the movie?
Also, okay, while we're here, Sylvia Pitson forks the sign of the evil eye. The fuck does that mean?
Yeah,
I have no idea. And this is another phrase that's used just over and over in this series, and no idea. I feel like that could have been explained a little better, just so I could picture it. Because like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I wasn't even looking for it in the beginning. Oh,
when the man in black showed up.
Yeah. Laid on the table. Yeah. They say he has a tittering laugh yet, because that's an awesome thing for the man in black.
One thing that I have noticed about King and his villains is he likes them to have kind of a air of madness to them. Like they're all kind of like gonna do their evil thing with a laugh and a smile.
Definitely.
He likes the mania.
Yeah, there's no like righteous justice for these bad people. There's like no like they're just nuts. You know,
Yeah.
It's like not like they're bad, like some anti-hero driven, like, oh, I have to do this for blankety blank. No, it's like they're just insane and bad people. So, right here, the man in black has already talked to Allie and made everybody kind of uncomfortable. He has a really nice voice and he has laughs, whatever, right? But he began to spit into Nort's face, aiming carefully. The spittle gleamed on the corpse's forehead, peeled down the shaven beak of his nose. What the fuck is going on?
Right? Like, He's like, oh yeah, I'll go make him better for you. And
yeah,
then just
make
goes over
this
and starts.
dead man better.
He just goes over and starts spitting in his face.
Yeah.
And then doing like cool flips and tricks all over.
That's what I wanted to
back
say
and
was,
forth.
how did you imagine the flips that he was doing over this man's body on a table?
It felt really cartoonish. Like
Very. And
I was trying to imagine it, and I really couldn't like get a good, because I was like, there's not a lot of room to,
yeah.
like, are you just doing a flip, landing on the other side of him, turning around, doing another flip, doing a cartwheel, doing a somersault over him?
Yeah, like, and I think he says that he moves like water, and it's like, what does that mean? Because to me, that would be like a very fluid, good movement. But what I'm thinking is like, oh, he jumps over, does a handstand, then jumps back on his feet. So it's like, that seems like a very step process. It'd be like,
Yeah.
jump over, handstand, feet, jump over. It doesn't seem like water to me.
Maybe he just flowed all his movements together real well or something.
Maybe so. That's the one that stuck with me from my first read through, that I just didn't know what is going on, but that's the section in the book where I started being like, okay, what is this? And I'm in.
Yeah. Going back to Brown, like,
Yeah.
Brown asks, are you a sorcerer like the other man? Or something like that. And so I was definitely going in like expecting some sort of magic trickery from the Man in Black.
Okay,
and
yeah.
we get it right away.
Yeah, that's a good. I forgot that he pulled like a full, clean rabbit out of his sleeve, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He did do that at Brown's.
Yeah, so he had some kind of ability. Just strange. So, the Man in Black brings Nort back to life, right?
Yeah, and everyone gets scared and runs away.
Which, I get it.
Yep.
And doesn't Allie lock herself up in the room?
Yeah, so she
And
runs
leaves him down there?
She runs upstairs and like locks herself away.
There ain't no way I'm leaving. Like, I have to like look at least. Like, no, you get.
Yeah, right.
I'm not gonna be able to sleep knowing there's just a locked door. Like, I know like an outside locked door is the same thing, but.
And after she calms down, she goes back down to the bar, and Nort is there, and he's got a note from the Man in Black.
Yes, I wanted to know, is it the same? Do you get like the handwriting like I get in my book?
No. So on the ebook, it's all written out, and then it has like a weird little square for the smiley face, because that smiley face is in
like
there.
I'm trying to use an emoji, but you haven't updated your phone yet, square?
Something kind of like that. Let me.
It's
show it to you.
41 for me. I don't know what it would be for you.
Here it is. It's just all written out, and then like has a little. Oh, whoops.
Oh, okay.
Has a little smiley face.
That's pretty close, though. I
Yeah.
mean, for the font and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot that it was a different font.
And that's another. I've never read these books on paperback, on physical. It's always been Audible for me.
Yeah.
So I've never seen the different the way that he would capitalize things or not, and just the ways that some readers, like the people I listen to, might take for granted that I might read differently in my mind. Like, especially with Sylvia Pittson's speech. I was remembering the guy that reads the book for Audible, but I also kind of put my own flavor on it too. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was interesting. I like this note that he left me. I'll just go ahead and read it for anybody listening. That would be, you want to know about death. I left him a word. That word is 19. If you say it to him, his mind will be opened. He will tell you what lies beyond. He will tell you what he saw. The word is 19. Knowing will drive you mad, but sooner or later you will ask. You will not be able to help yourself. Have a nice day. Smiley face, Walter O'Dim. And then a PS, a postscript. The word is 19. You will try to forget, but sooner or later it will come out of your mouth like vomit. 19. What a evil thing to do to somebody.
That is probably one of the standout parts of the reading. So to me, just like the whole like, ooh, you're gonna want to know, but it's gonna drive you crazy, and if you do know, then it's gonna drive you even more crazy.
Yeah, it's a loaded gun that is. It's you get something by pulling the trigger too. You know, it's something that's an itch you can't scratch. I think King uses a metaphor to say it's like trying to don't picture your mother naked.
Yep. That's how That's how Roland, that's how the Gunslinger.
Oh yeah, we're not there yet. We don't know his name.
That's how the Gunslinger relates it in his head.
Yeah.
Because somebody did that to him when he was a child.
Like, oh, you'll go to hell. And I think he says hell too.
Yeah, he says you'll go to hell if you imagine your mother naked. And
that's another interesting religious aspect. I hadn't connected that he might be knowledgeable of the man Jesus and some of like Pitts and Sylvia's preachings. That might be, you know how religion can be a spectrum.
Yeah,
from crazies to not so crazy.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
And then after Allie tells him the story, the Gunslinger is like, the man in black is many things, but he's not a liar.
Yeah.
So forget that number. Forget it even exists.
His ways of like, okay, remember that half of 38 is 17. I'm like, no, that won't work because at least be 18. Get close.
Right.
18.9 at least. Come on, Gunslinger. But yeah, that.
The man in black is many things, but he's no liar.
It's a great line. It's like, okay, he might be terrible, but what he told you is true. Like, he will mess with you in this way, but not tell you a lie.
And it has some interesting implications later on in the chapter as well.
Definitely. Very def. Ooh, I didn't even think about that. About the way he told. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Okay. I did find another thing interesting reading the first time. She caught herself writing it in the puddle on the bar, 19, and skidded into nothingness when she saw Nort watching her. I pictured a 1 and a 9 whenever I was reading this.
Yeah.
Or like hearing it for the first time. I wouldn't write out the word 19. But in here it changes back to that font of handwriting.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get that in the book. I just imagined that she actually wrote
same thing, right? But
it's that makes more sense.
Yeah.
That's more of a normal person thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I wanted to just mention like those fun things that is going to be my only like surprises in this series is what is actually on the page, literally, because I haven't ever read it. If you want to get technical with me.
I had kind of the same experience with the Wheel of Time series. Mm-hmm. I listened to all 14 of those on audiobook.
Mm-hmm. There's 14 books?
There's 14.
Jesus.
14 in a novella.
Wow.
And like 4 or 5 of them in a row in the middle are kind of meh.
Yeah.
They're a slog, but I listened through all those through audiobook or through Audible. Fantastic narrators. But with the show coming out, I went and started reading the first one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's how that's spelled?
Oh my god.
That's I would have thought that was pronounced completely differently. What the hell? Or there's just like a lot of things where like, oh, I wouldn't have imagined that as a capital. Like that's a proper noun.
Oh,
right
there's the Gunslinger, like something like that, right?
Yeah.
They have a mention of one of Roland's childhood friends in the next chapter, and I want you to read the chapter without looking how to pronounce it.
Okay.
It's a fight online because they have the books 2 through 6 have one narrator. Books 1 and 7 have a different narrator.
Oh yeah.
And the guy pronounces that guy. Each guy pronounces the name different, and no one has it like. We don't know what it's supposed to be.
I love that.
Yeah, so whatever you say, I want you to bring that in here because I've picked which narrator I like the most. And that's how I pronounce it whenever I read it. So
right on.
So where are we? Okay. 19. And they go up and they're going to... Okay, so you put out a tweet about this the other day, about Sheb. Why did that make you laugh so much? Or you enjoyed it? I don't know. I remember what you exactly said.
Oh, yeah. So they're talking, and Shep, the piano player, is, I guess, jealous of their relationship, mm-hmm. their extra good friendship. And so he busts into the room with his, like, this 8-inch long knife, and he's like, he tries to stab at Roland, and he, like, misses and stabs the mattress. And then Roland just like grabs both of his hands and just
breaks them.
Breaks both of his hands. And Allie's not like, oh my god, that's horrible. She's like, you idiot. You know you couldn't go against him. What are you gonna do for work now, you idiot? Like she's just
it's so matter of fact. Yeah. I'm like, You just ruined your way to eat. Not that, oh my God, you're in great pain right now.
Yes, and what cracked me up is just the fact that she was like, what'd you think was going to happen?
Because that is like the we haven't got to the gunslinger flexing his muscles just yet, but I believe that there is an understanding of what a gunslinger is, and that they are not to be fucked with.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be like, oh, these are badasses. I don't know if it's like you can compare it like a Navy SEAL or like a knight maybe. I like the knight because it fits more of the fantasy illusion here, and that these people, I think that Roland mentions that people in this town had never seen a gun before, and he carries 2 on his hips, sandalwood grips, all that good stuff that he talks about. And I think he even tried to attack him with like a serrated bread knife, I think is what it is.
Oh, I missed that part. I just realized it was a
Something
big knife.
that doesn't have a very good point, is going to be very hard to kill somebody with. Like, you might just hurt somebody.
Yeah.
That's your best strike, but yeah.
Yeah, it cracked me up. And then they basically just turn him around and send him on his way. And then the gunslinger has a thought like, oh, wait a second. I know you.
That is an addition, just so you know.
Oh,
it's a big addition to the book.
After I learned about that,
Yeah.
I was like, that kind of feels like something that wouldn't have been in the original short story.
Did you? Let's go ahead and read it just because. When I read it, at least look over it, right? She was mine. She kept it first. Da da da. Remember the beautiful. Okay, that's Sylvia Pitson. And he says, the gunslinger says to him, Magus, the gunslinger said, and the little piano player looked around, eyes wide. The gunslinger nodded, amiably enough, now that Sheb was no longer trying to stick a knife in his lights. Magus, he said, on the clean sea. What about it? You were there, weren't you? Many and many a, as they did say. What if I was? I don't remember you. He said something about, but you remember the girl, don't you? The girl named Susan and Reap Night, and his voice took on an edge. Were you there for the bonfire? What do you think that means?
Something traumatic happened to the gunslinger when he was young. And I'm imagining that, he says, you remember the girl? Yeah, you remember the girl, don't you? Susan? I'm going to guess that she died there, or something terrible happened to her there. And it's obviously that that Susan is someone that he held in high regards at the time, or maybe even had feelings for. But my imagining is that she's dead, or she got very gravely wounded or hurt during that.
You think a bonfire as like the town burning down, or like a celebratory, or like just a burning of trash? How did you picture this bonfire?
The way he said it, it kind of sounded like, it kind of made me think of like calling it a bonfire, but it's really more of a arsony. It's like burning something down.
Yeah, I was interested in that because I don't remember reading this the very first time, and maybe it's just being a small town. Like, bonfires can mean a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can have whole shindigs by bonfires.
Yeah. Where we grew up from, bonfires were basically parties.
Yeah, I've had some of my best nights within 10 feet of a fire, and that's all. That was the entertainment.
Absolutely.
So, I did wonder how others viewed that, because I think of like not necessarily like a celebration, but just a gathering.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's kind of the end of Sheb's story, and the gunslinger will not tell Allie anything.
Yeah, he kind of shuts down. He's like, just kicks out Sheb, and she's like, well, talk to me about it. He's like, no. She's like, I can make you strong like she did. No, you can't. Stop talking. Go away.
Yeah,
leave me alone.
I think we've seen more of like the person of who the gunslinger is in this town with a woman than we did alone with Brown, which is probably to be expected,
Yeah.
Being more social around that many people. But it was interesting that we kind of see him reverting back to how we saw him in the first couple of pages. This machine that was just trudging along, that has no want of getting help, whether that be with thirst or with human companionship, whatever it may be. I like that he kind of reverts back to that. Not a great thing to do in real life, but for the character, it's fun to read.
It's good on page.
Yeah, it's great to read. Don't talk about that shit. So I guess we're getting into the Sylvia Pitson.
Yep. The next day, the bar is closed. It's basically
their version of the Sabbath, I think, is what he calls it.
Yeah, he calls it the Sabbath, and which is that's an interesting mixture of religions there.
Yeah.
And so the bar is closed. Everybody's at church except Allie. She's like, I don't like her. She's not the real preacher. She said the real preacher left before Sylvia came, and she's like, says something about like, oh, Sylvia's kind of crazy. I don't like the way she preaches.
I think she says like she preaches hateful religion,
or
evil religion, something like that. I really like the way
poison religion.
Poison religion. I love that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good line, either from King or Allie, however you want to look at it. Okay, that's just to give us what this character is. Poison religion. I think that most aware people in the world can have an idea of what religion being poisonous can look and sound like.
Oh, absolutely. I've definitely experienced that.
And boy, does Sylvia fit that to a T. This sermon, if for anything, I would love to see this recreated.
Yeah, I was thinking about that
film,
too.
Yeah, and in my mind, it's Kathy Bates.
I can see that. Yeah,
like Misery, younger Kathy Bates too. So that's who I pictured whenever she was doing this, and I don't know. I like this scene just because of how batshit crazy it is with all the people in the crowd, saying yes. And
guy, like,
Jesus
falling at his
Savior.
knees.
Yeah. The girl was like stamping her feet on the ground so hard her shoe flew off, and it's like, what scene is this?
The whole time I was reading it, I was like, thinking about like what if they tried to like make it film or TV again.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I could definitely see this being like a HBO kind of deal, and like the whole first chapter would be like the pilot episode, and it'd still like you could probably cover this all in like 90 minutes and have it be its own like little mini movie. Oh
yeah, I think that this whole book could probably be covered probably 90 minutes. This first chapter, I think you could get it done in 30.
Probably, yeah.
But
I can see them stretching it out to like an hour TV show and making it work.
For sure. The
be
more
a lot of characters to introduce to not bring back.
That would be kind of interesting, to have them killed off, literally and metaphorically. But no, I've said if I win the lottery, I'm buying the rights and having the right fucking people handle this story, because
hell yeah,
they had a guy, I forget his name, but he had a pilot for the first Gunslinger or for the Dark Tower series for Amazon and never got picked up. But they made the pilot. It was the blue guy, Guardians of the Galaxy from Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, I can't think of the actor's name, but I know what you're talking about.
He was in it, and the Give Me 10 Good Men and I'll Impregnate the Bitch from Game of Thrones.
Also can't think of his name, but I can picture him. Right?
Yeah. They were both in it. So, okay, two characters that are side characters that I absolutely love, and I think they would fit great in this world. And there was someone else that was playing Roland, but it was a different whatever. It sounded like he was on the right track to make a great Dark Tower series, the way that he was talking about it, and whatever. Don't look it up because there's a lot of spoilers in it.
Yeah.
So, because they just start talking about, because things that become broad talking points about the series happen all over. It's not like it's one straight storyline. No, there's a lot of climaxes and turns and different things to discover that will take you out of where you're at in the book right now. There's so much that changes.
Yeah.
This book, I'm going to save that for the end, like kind of a recap of what I think about this book. But we'll keep on going. Sylvia. So she goes batshit. Did you have anything else to say about that little sermon she gave?
So she's talking about like basically like the mixture between the Antichrist and Satan, calling him the interloper.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I know and love every person in the Bible. She's like, I can imagine myself being there with them. There's only one person I don't know, and that's the interloper.
Yeah.
And basically Satan and the Antichrist all wrapped up in one.
Yeah. And just a bedtime boogeyman.
Oh, absolutely.
In my opinion. Because there was no reason why this man must be. There's no connection between the Christian's devil or Antichrist, however you want to say it, and the Gunslinger. Like,
Yeah.
besides the fact that they're outsiders, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's the. And King does a great job with taking, like, small town life and boiling it down to something that is universal, I feel. And the rejection of anything from the outside is very small townish. It's in Salem's Lot. It's in Under the Dome. A lot of his novels take that aspect, and I think this is a great example of him not being subtle with it.
Yeah.
Like really, really leaning into maybe something that he had an idea or a beef with small town living, because he is from small town in, well, not really small, but it's Maine, whatever. So, I don't know, I found that interesting. Anybody that has read other books might also be able to see that, the connections between Salem's Lot, like I said, Under the Dome. Shit, probably half of them.
Needful Things is a very small town.
Yeah.
Very small
But they
town
accept
story.
that, interloper.
Yeah. But it is the devil who's an outsider coming in.
What a wild, wild book that is. He is beat by child's magic.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Sorry if anybody's. The audiobook is read by King, and it's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Oh, it's terrible.
Have you heard? Oh,
That's how I
we
read
had
it.
talked about that, hadn't we? Oh my god, it's the worst. I need to buy the book and reread it because you're like, oh, the book's so good. I'm like, mid. That's all I can think.
I really enjoyed the story, but yeah, the narration was. Ew.
Yeah, he's not great.
I actually got like a bunch of King books from my my brother-in-law. He moved out of his parents' house and just left this box of books in their garage. And
Yeah.
we're like, can we have them?
Hell yeah.
And so
Anytime books, yeah. Let me
right.
build it up.
And they're pretty much all King books.
Okay, cool.
And so Needful Things is one of them. And so after I read I listened to a lot of the audiobook, and I was like, I have this on my shelf. I'm just gonna finish it there.
The scene in Needful Things where the lady is like visiting Elvis through the glasses,
Yeah.
and she like has an orgasm, and it's King voicing it. It's one of the worst things you'll ever hear in your life.
Oh God.
It's so bad. If you quit before that point, you need to just to hear it. You know?
I still have it in my Audible account. I'll.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, back to the matters at hand. Yeah. So, Roland's or the Gunslingers. You have anything more about while we're at the church?
No, nothing
Okay.
that we haven't said. I don't think.
But his solution is to go to this lady's house, which I found kind of strange too.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna go to her house and have a talk with her.
And he said like he had this like weird sexual desire for her.
Oh yeah, he saw her and he was like, damn, she thick.
Exactly what is going on here? And I don't know. It felt very strange in King's choice like that. This I think is like a red desire for her, but King is also very fat phobic and never writes good fat characters.
Right. I saw a Twitter thread on that today, and I was like, yeah, they're right. Every other fat character I've ever read from him, like he's described as disgusting and part of the horror. And here he's like, oh, this fat lady.
He doesn't really like lean into it, like, oh, her arms were white slabs. And it's like, okay, like whatever. Like you're trying to,
Yeah.
Like as much as he will mention the size of a woman's breast the first time introducing him, he will introduce every fat character in the same way that they wobbled while they walked and all this shit. It's like, oh my God, like you need to relax.
Yeah.
You know, this is terrible. I think he's gotten a little bit better in recent years, but his old stuff, it doesn't stand up to that kind of critique of just not being an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
But his and so that's why I kind of was surprised that the Gunslinger would have this sexual attraction, because I don't think King would allow any of his heroes to be interested in a bigger person.
Right. And like, even it's not treated as weird like you would think from King, because when he goes to meet her, she's like, she points out like, oh, you're attracted to me, or something. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but and then he goes, well, have you ever met a man who wasn't?
Which that's what makes me think that this is more of a supernatural like effect on him.
Yeah.
Just knowing King's writing, and it's not like I'm not trying to project my own feelings about like sexual attraction towards any bigger women. Like, no, like y'all rock too. But like it felt that he was trying to highlight that this attraction was wrong, that Roland the gunslinger should not be interested in Sylvia because she was big, and because he was attracted to her, there was something innately wrong with what's going on here.
Yeah.
So that's probably me putting in my history with the author into this book, but it might not have been intended.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I was just like this. I just, it was notable to me about how different it was from other interactions he's had or other writings he's had of fat people.
I remember in Under the Dome, he was a giant man, huge. He weighed an ungodly 250 pounds. I'm like, oh my god,
I
was
wish.
250 in like 7th grade. Like, what's going on here?
Cries in 380.
Yeah. Like. All right, so I can't say this word on YouTube. It's sexual assault, right? That's what he's doing to her.
Oh, this is like the most uncomfortable part of the.
It should not be in the book. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad writing. It serves no purpose.
Yeah, he and somehow kills the baby. I don't know how that happens.
Was it pain? Was it pleasure? Like, I don't.
She was pleasured.
I thought so too, but then the baby dies, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's about all I'm gonna say about it.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump quip on that, because that's weird, and let's not have that in the television adaptation. Okay.
Oh, absolutely not. Let's
just shoot her.
Just
He
shoot her.
shoots her in 3 pages from now. She's dead.
Yeah.
But we had to get that out. Okay.
Yeah.
So the gunslinger starts to pack up, and he's like, okay, I'm out of here. He was still waiting for this trap the Man in Black set, which I found interesting.
Yeah. And so earlier I was saying, like he said that the Man in Black was not a liar.
Mm-hmm.
Before he leaves Sylvia, she does say that like the Man in Black told me you were the Antichrist. He told me that you were the interloper. She says that he called himself an angel, and that the child that he gave her was the son of the Crimson King, which I'm sure will never come up again.
Never. It's not a part.
Yeah, that was just a throwaway name right there. But Roland doesn't refute anything that she says. He does say at one point like, "Oh, he didn't actually tell you that." So like that she's making it up. But so it's like, what did he tell her versus what is she making up or wanted to hear?
I believe that she is insane.
Yeah.
Without the aid of the Man in Black. I believe that she was a religious fanatic before the Man in Black came.
Yeah.
So I think that some things that she might say and interpret could be thrown, like, that could be her doing, not the Man in Black necessarily.
Yeah.
But also, like, the Man in Black could very well have told her that and not been. I'm not going to, like, stifle any thoughts about if Roland is the bad guy. I think that I'm asking you at the end of this book, do you like Roland?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm at, like, do you like him? Because he is the main character in this book, and it's like, okay, do we fuck with this guy? Because he's about to murder a whole fucking town.
Yeah.
Like he obviously was like driven to it, but let's get there because I've been waiting.
Yeah. So he goes to get his mule from the stable. I don't know
whatever, like Kirksley or something weird.
Who I did like this character, just because of the way he like described him as like grinning and cringing at the same time. I had this like perfect like picture of his face just the whole time, like
yeah. I love that.
Just like
yeah.
And I could picture like this like I imagine him as like a tiny little guy just making this really uncomfortable like
yeah
the whole time.
Okay, I like that. I found it actually when I was reading. I found it hard to visualize that, but I think you got it. And the daughter weird shit too. Just it feels like a young kid writing that she like pinched her nipples at him.
Yeah. God.
Just weird. Just weird, King.
You were 19, huh?
Yeah, you were 19 at this time. So, yeah. So she tries to kill him, right? Like that's what we're supposed to take from that. Is that I think it was a piece of stovepipe she tries to kill him with.
Yeah. So while he's talking to Kennerly, like she tries to attack him at one point, and he just kind of like brushes it off and like walks back into town with the mule.
Yeah.
And then that's when people start like pouring out of their doors and
they couldn't find anybody first, right? They said that everything was empty. Allie was not in the bar. He goes in there, he gets some hamburger, a couple beers, and like fills up his water, I believe.
Yeah.
And that nobody, but the first person that he sees is Allie busting out of somebody, and she is somebody's hostage.
Sheb.
Yep, she was his shield and sacrifice. Which I thought was a really way to look at that. Like,
yeah,
that Sheb had turned that far against her, and in pursuit tried to kill this man. And holy shit, the audiobook reader does way better a job than I did reading this to myself. It's like I feel like he kept a pace. I kept on wanting to like slow down and like read like what was happening in this. But when you hear it like being told to you, it was just this breakneck pace of these next 3 or 4 pages of it. Really is like, God, he really like shoots for 7 pages here.
Oh wow.
Yeah. They just like it's just straight action, which is kind of hard to do in text, and especially with guns. You know, there's not much like trading blows or parrying or anything you can do with that. But I fucking love this scene.
Oh, it's so good. And so when Sheb is holding her hostage,
Yeah.
she like yells out
Right there. You want it? Kill me, roll and kill me. Yeah.
Yeah, kill me, roll and kill me. She
Yeah.
tells him that she said the word 19.
Yeah.
She got all the secrets of the realm of the dead, or however you want to
The
put
afterlife,
it. The
or like
afterlife.
just being dead, like.
And she begs him to kill her, which not the best human shield if your human shield wants to die.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess it's functioning for at least one shot.
Yeah.
But I believe that's the hands were trained to give her what she wanted. He was the last of his breed, and not only his mouth knew the high speech, the gun beat their heavy atonal music into the air. Her mouth flapped, and she sagged, and the guns fired again. The last expression on her face might have been gratitude. Sheb's head snapped back. They both fell into the dust. That's a holy shit paragraph.
Yeah.
I think. Like, it's like, oh my God. Like, yeah, he just... The guns knew how to speak in the high speech, too. I thought that was just fucking...
That was really
an
cool.
awesome way to say that. Like, they flipped the switch, and now we see why he's called a gunslinger.
Yeah.
Right?
I just had a really stupid image. The guns speak the high speech.
Yeah.
So I just imagined Nort walking up to him, just being like, bang, 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 bang.
That's funny. And they just spoke bang, 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 bang. I don't think that's what they meant, but
no, probably
maybe.
not.
That's funny. Oh my God. So basically, he mows down this whole town, right? Like, is this something that you feel a hero does?
No, your first impression reading it, you're kind of just like, oh yeah, action scene, woo, it's a Western, and then you're like, he is kind of self-defense, but also he's murdering everybody. Like, he's not trying not to fight.
Obviously, he's like a trained like killing machine in at least some way. Like, his fingers did their magic trick again, like of reloading, which I always thought was pretty cool. But that he shoots a kid.
Yeah, so the worst one that he gets is this kid like sneaks up on him and slashes his leg.
Yep.
And he, like, emotionless, just
Bam,
blows his head off.
There. Yeah, and I imagine that his guns, I believe that they were like, yeah, 6 shooters. So that's gonna be a loud, big bullet. Your head's probably not no longer there, little guy.
Yeah, and I think the whole time they describe him as like he only missed one shot.
I believe he does miss one shot, doesn't he?
Because it says that he reloaded, one missed, and there were 11 kills or something like that.
Yeah, it was 11 found their target or something like that.
Yeah, 11 found, and so not only is he cold and emotionless about it, he's fucking good.
Yeah. How did you picture him like retreating? Because I think the way that King writes it, as he's like telling it, it's like he's just a blank slate and his hands are doing all this like crazy stuff as he's like walking through the storefronts and all this like that, and like just shooting, reloading, da 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 da. And they go in and it says he's been screaming the whole time, which added a whole other like, holy shit.
Yeah, I was like, this gunslinger can fit so much trauma in it.
Oh my god. I got the meme reference. Yeah, he's fucking nuts. I don't know what else to say about this besides this is the scene that I was like, okay, this is nuts. This is, not every page is going to be like this, but if like somebody was like reading this, I'd be like, okay, did you get through Toll? Did you get to where he left Toll? Because if you got through that, you can experience like the wildness of what this book is capable of like showing you, and you still didn't like it, but okay, I get it. I'd probably tell him to finish the book anyways, but yeah.
And then after he's killed just about everybody, Sylvia shows up and with a cross in each hand, like she's gonna scare away the demon.
Did you have that pulled up? Because that's a really interesting.
Yeah. So then it was Sylvia Pittston running at him, waving a wooden cross in each hand. Devil, 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 child killer, monster. Destroy him, brothers and sisters. Destroy the child-killing interloper.
I like that he wasted 2 shots to put into the cross pieces.
Yeah. And 4 more into her head.
4 more into her head. He wasted 6 rounds on this lady.
Yeah. And then there's a few more people left after that, but it doesn't really,
it's
spend
just
too much time on them.
He did, and why I asked if this guy was a good guy, he shot people in the back that were fleeing from him. The last 3 people were running from him. They had realized that they had lost, and he does not care.
Yeah. He has, he is in the, he's kind of in the gunslinger mode. He's just, you attacked me, now perish.
Yeah, bad decision.
Yeah.
So here we go.
But no, it does not feel very heroic.
Okay. I'm glad that you at least feel that way, because I was wondering myself. I thought it was badass in the sense of like action scene.
Yeah.
But you bring that back to real life, and you're like, okay. He really just killed a whole town.
Yeah, he didn't try not to fight, and then when people decided to stop fighting, you kept fighting.
He doesn't seem like he'd be a very good diplomat either. I don't think he's very good with words.
Yeah, if he was a D&D character, he'd have an 8 in charisma. He'd have a negative modifier.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think he could have talked. He doesn't. I don't think he has the necessity to talk ever. If you're like one of the only people in the world that owns guns and you're this proficient at it, I mean, we have nothing like that's a nuclear bomb but a person. That's like you can't top that unless you have a sorcerer. Like I guess if the Man in Black can believe to be magic, and then Nort was really dead. I always like to put a lot of doubt into that until like magic is proven.
Yeah.
That I don't want to be like, oh, magic or oh, religion. Like there's like, oh, did he get saved by God? It's like, or is this just the author fucking with us?
Right.
I will tell you one thing with King. If he says it sounded like there was a beast slogging across the floor upstairs, there was something upstairs. Like it's never like a fake thing. So expect that while you're reading. He's never. If that's what he says, it sounded like, or it is. That's what it is. So I do believe the Man in Black is probably magic because everybody freaked out so bad. But this world is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how to connect it always. So then we go back to Brown's hut, and nothing really happens.
Yeah, they kind of like just close out the fact that they've been talking. He asks the gunslinger if he feels better now that they got that all off his chest.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, why would I feel bad?
Why would I feel bad? You're human, you said, no demon, or did you lie? It's like, Jesus.
Do you feel better now that you told me that? Wait, do I need to feel better?
I wish it would have been fun to see Brown become his companion. I think they'd have had some fun interactions along the road.
that would have been a cool pairing. So, he goes to sleep, and then the next day they eat some breakfast, and then the gunslinger leaves.
Just walks right on out. Thanks him for everything. I don't think he pays him.
No, but the mule died, so we got a lot of meat out of it.
I'm wondering how good is walk to your death meat.
Can't be great.
It can't be something like, okay, this is the kind of meat I want. Is it's walk through this desert long enough to die,
Right?
And now I'm eating the meat.
Earlier Brown said, or he asked Brown like, "Oh, why don't you just eat that bird?" And he's like, "Oh, it's tough eating." This is gonna be tough eating too.
He also said something in there about
humans being tough eating.
That animals that talked were tough eating, which is interesting. Interesting thing that there's animals that does he just mean like a crow and a parrot?
At first that's kind of what I thought about, and then people mentioned like the demons and creatures out in the desert.
Uh-huh.
There was the thing about the bird-headed guy.
Yeah. Oh, the Tahin. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he also, in that paragraph, says people. So, So, hey, Brown, what have you gotten up to before, man?
Yeah. He, desperate times, desperate measures, right?
All right.
So that is the first chapter. I believe it's just called, is it Toll? Oh, it's the
Gunslinger.
Gunslinger. Yeah. Chapter 1 of the Gunslinger, called the Gunslinger. The next time we'll be moving on to the Way Station.
Yeah.
Have you read any ahead?
I have not yet. No.
Really? Okay. I didn't know if I told you late enough to be like.
I wanted to, but then I was like, I'm just gonna reread this to get it fresh.
You've read it a couple of times. You're doing way better than I am. Because as we were talking the other day, man, I need to take a lot better notes because you think about while you're reading. Oh, I'll remember to talk about that. That's so interesting. How could I forget about that? And then it's like, I forgot Nort.
Yeah. One thing that helped me with notes and like kind of the website Tor, like the publisher, they do like read along threads, and like they'll pay like a writer to do like a read along.
Oh wow!
And so I can't remember her name, but this lady, she did like basically just wrote like an article for. I think she divided this one up into 4 articles. Like she did one for each 5 sections. It's her first time reading through it, and she'll do like summary, what I learned, what I thought about it. Summary, what I learned, what I thought about it.
Is this like the text version of YouTube React videos? Like this is Hawkeye season 5 explained.
A little bit more insightful, but yeah, I suppose
a little bit
so.
better though, right? Yeah. That's a really cool concept because I think
it did help me with my notes and like kind of realizing some parts that I had like missed on my first read through.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Send me that link.
Yeah,
sometime,
absolutely.
So I can do that too because sometimes when you're reading, you just read for enjoyment and not for taking notes.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about the book so far?
I really like it.
Do you? Okay, I'm probably going to ask you that question to close out every video.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's interesting to keep track of that, and then we can also have a history of it. I love ranking things on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, where you at?
I'm really bad at ranking things on a scale of 1 to 10, but if I had to give this one a ranking, I'd say probably like, it really got my attention. I read through it really fast.
Mm-hmm.
It made me want to reread it. Like it wasn't like I'm only doing this to I'm only doing this to get refreshed. I'd say probably like a 7 or 8 so far.
Okay, I can expect much better out of this book. Like whenever I rank things, I don't give many things 1s. I don't give many things 10s. It's more of a 2 through 9 for me. So
yeah, and the way I see ranking is kind of like on a 1 through 5. 1 means it's terrible. 2 means it's kind of bad. 3 means it's people say like a 3 is a really bad score, but that means it's average.
Which I think the grading system has really fucked us on that. Because C's are bad somehow, you know.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, I think that if you're,
but I'd say that if a 3 to a 4 was like I liked it and I really liked it, I'd say that I really liked it.
Okay.
So
yeah, I love that you can say that. I'm glad that you aren't doing this just because I asked, and that you actually got some enjoyment out of it, because the only other person I've asked to do this was my dad. I took him to a movie and it fucking sucked.
I actually had all these downloaded and put into my Google Play Books app.
Yeah.
I had done that like a few years ago, and then I just kind of forgot about it. And it's been something I've always wanted to go and read, but I've just never gotten around to it. I was like, oh, how about this book instead, or something. So when you messaged me about it, I was like, yes, finally.
Somebody telling me what to do.
Yeah.
I'm the same exact way. I need directive in my life. So anytime that that's probably why I did it too. It's like, okay, I want to reread this. I want to create content. How do we combine that? And it's just like this. So, I don't know. We're not anywhere far enough into the book to talk about like where you think it's going or anything like that. So like big picture, things are kind of out.
I do have a couple predictions.
Okay, go ahead.
So, you know, they say that they're heading southeast. They kind of see like even the movements in the cloud, like the air is heading like southeast. So I'm, guessing from the name of the series that they're heading towards the Dark Tower. That's where the Man in Black is trying to get to. And the fact that even like the air is drawn there kind of makes me think like maybe this is like the center of the world. If there was a map, maybe this is like the Dark Tower's in the center of it.
I love that.
I feel like we won't get any sort of climactic ending between the Gunslinger and the Man in Black anytime soon.
Okay.
There are 6 more books.
Yeah.
But and then I have some predictions based just on the terrible movie. Cause,
we're gonna get Jake introduced next chapter.
He
He's a big boy.
He comes in that soon?
Yeah,
Cool.
That's at the way station. So
okay.
I'll spoil that for you. But okay, that's all you need to know about the movie, is that there was 2 characters. There are 3 main players: the Man in Black, Roland, and Jake. Those are the 3 main players.
Yeah.
So.
Right on.
Yeah. I cannot wait for you to finish this book.
Yeah.
Just because it's so batshit crazy, man. Like, I don't know. This series is insane, and I can't wait to discuss it. Like, I listen to podcasts on this book. Podcasts.
That's how I am with the Cosmere books.
Yeah, and it's definitely funny trying to like recreate that kind of content where I'm like, oh my god, these people I listen to are so much better than me. I thought, why aren't you talking about this? Because you forget shit, all right?
Right.
But that's awesome, man. I guess I'll sign us off. Do you want to plug any socials? Do you stream still, or do you want anybody to follow you on Twitter?
Yeah. If you guys want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter. My username is Mr. Jakey Poo. I do a couple other podcasts, one that hasn't released yet, so I won't really talk about that. But
tease them. Love it.
I do one called Hearts Against Balance, which is a Kingdom Hearts inspired actual play podcast, where we just take characters from lots of different media and plays them. I'm currently playing as like Seahawk from the She-Ra cartoon, and it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Well, obviously you're here on my YouTube channel, Redacted Media. Go ahead and like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. I like to put out anything that I can on video here. I also tweet a bunch of bullshit at redacted_posts. Follow me at your own risk. I'm an idiot, but it's kind of fun sometimes. Also have another podcast here with just my roommate and I. You can find that here on Redacted Media. It's called the Joe Cat Alarm Dog Podcast. We don't talk about anything, but we talk for about an hour every time. So that's the best way to describe that one. It's just us bullshitting and being idiots. Y'all made it this long. Thanks for stopping by. Like to give a shout out to the YouTube channel or podcast that inspired this, which would be Dark Tower Palaver. You can find them. They're on any type of streaming services. I'm going to try to get them on as guests. I've already slid into their DMs, so I think that'd be great. Be a really good time. They're really cool dudes. So look forward to that, and look forward to having this series continue. I think we got a lot of room for creating content and having some fun discussions. I think today went well. I think I'm gonna be better prepared for episode 2, just to kind of drive things a little bit better. The way I usually create video content or podcasts is improv.
There you go.
Just, hanging out and doing stuff. And I think that that would be a disservice to this format of discussing something. Whenever I was reviewing shows, it's like I just watched the show, and then I sat down and recorded. So now it's like I have to read over sometimes days with school and work. So yeah, I'm going to be better next time, y'all. Thanks for stopping by this time. Can't wait to see y'all next time. So catch you later.
Bye.